Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me today is a young lady that I've had the pleasure of knowing for a number of years now. And to know her, the thing that immediately comes to mind is her big smile, her big infectious laughter, just the high energy that she brings about herself, just making her to be a fun person here. Most importantly, the thing that stands out about her is that she is a woman of God, and she's taken time out of her very busy schedule to sit down with us to share a little bit about her journey with the hopes of encouraging and inspiring and uplifting others, particularly as it deals with, how to deal with adversity and the challenging moments of life. So it is my privilege and honor, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you my dear friend, Miss Angel Middleton. Angel, thank you so much for being on the show.
Joe, thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Angel Middleton. I work for the federal government. I've been there about 16 years now. And I'm also a minister at my church over the nursery, as well as over my dance ministry. And God is on the move right now. I've been having some interesting moments with him for the past couple of months, and I'm so excited to share that with you guys today.
That is awesome, and I'm looking forward to finding out more about your story, your journey. Like I said, I've known you for a number of years now, but we've never had a chance to have this type of sit down conversation. So I'm really excited. I've been looking forward to this time together, and I know that your story is going to be a blessing not only to me but to my listeners. So, with that said, we're going to jump right in, and yeah, with my first question to you, which when it comes to our journeys, our stories in life, I'm a firm believer that you really cannot fully capture the essence of one story if you don't go back to the beginnings of where it all starts. And so that's exactly what we're going to do with you. And so, with that said, Angel, if you would, I want you to take us back to your childhood and kind of share with us a little bit. What was it like for you growing up? Fond memories that come to mind, as well as if there was any specific challenges that come to mind that you had to deal with. Just kind of giving us that foundational basis of where your journey begins.
Oh, yes, Joe. So, growing up, we definitely had some really, really good times within my household, and then we've had some setbacks. My parents, they weren't married. They didn't marry each other anyway growing up, and we were used to that. So, to us, it necessarily didn't feel like a broken home. But I know that not having both of my parents in the household definitely had an effect on me. I can remember to back whenever I was like, say 3 years old. My mom had married a man from the military. I'm originally from Pensacola, Florida. We transitioned over to Jacksonville, Florida, where he was stationed. And, you know, my parents, like, they didn't go to church or anything. I think they had gotten churched out from their parents, and they were, being rogues in life. Still kind of rogues in life today, but that's fine. I love them anyway. And so, I had my first, I guess, my first church experience was going to like maybe a Sunday school class and answering a question right. I had to be about 3 or 4, and I got like this little bouquet of what do they call it? Lollipops, dumb pops, dum dums. I think we used to call them dum dums back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my first like church experience. At some point, we came back to Pensacola, and I had always been a daddy's girl. Like, even when we were in Jacksonville, if there was a holiday, I'm like, I want to be with my daddy. So going back to Pensacola was great because, it's a 5-hour drive from one spot to the next. And so I was able to see him more and be around him more. But I remember a time like in middle school where I was about to go on an eighth grade, or we had been invited to like an eighth grade field trip to Disney World. And, my parents, like I said, they weren't together. And my mom didn't have money to take me to Disney World. But I was a star athlete. I made really good grades. And so my track coach, she was like, hey, um, me and the teachers, we're going to get together and we're going to help you pay for like half of this trip. Just see if your parents, your mama can help you pay for that other half of the trip. And we will make sure that you're taken care of and that you can go to Disney World because we just feel like you deserve it. So My mom, talked to the track coach, and she was able, between her and my dad, was able to come up with half of the money. And I was able to go to Disney World, and I was so excited and so happy. But um, growing up, I had to have I guess like a tough girl exterior to a degree, because my parents, they're the most loving parents in life. Like, one thing I will say is, like, to this day, like, I'm a mama. I say I'm a daddy's girl, but I'm a mama's girl too. Like, I love my parents. Like, I can just lay on them and kiss on them and jump in their lap still to this day. Like, I love my parents. But my mom, she started having kids when she was 16. She had my brother at 16, had my sister at 17, had me at 18. I have friends my mom's age because she had kids so young. Um, and so she didn't really get the stability in her life from having kids young. I think she may have finished up to the eighth grade. And so I went to 7 different elementary schools, ended up going to 3 different middle schools, and then I ended up going to 2 different high schools. So having to go to so many different schools in a short period of time really have you with your guard up, because people don't know you, you're the new person. It's harder to make friends sometimes because people generally stay in the same school for years. And so I kind of had a tough girl exterior, but whenever I got into the sports and stuff, that allowed for other kids to kind of get to know me. And so I was able to grow friendships through being in sports. So I think that was a blessing from God, that He had me, being active and being really good in track and field from growing up. And then as I moved into high school, I ended up dating one of the guys on the track team. He was a senior, I was a freshman. And his family, they lived down the street from us. They went to church. And so, I started kind of going to church with him and his family. And I really enjoyed going to church with him and his family. And so I decided I'm joining the church. So I went through the new members class by myself when I was like in ninth grade, and signed up to be a part of the church, and joined I joined some of their youth stuff, where I helped with the little kindergarten class. I was on the dance ministry. I was on the mime ministry. I was on the rap team. And so I got highly involved. Even with me, I think we broke up within a few months, maybe. I don't know. But I even started having my daddy take me to church. I was like, all right, me and him ain't together, daddy. I'm going to need you to take me to church. So I knew I was kind of different, you know, kind of growing up, because, even though me and my brother and sister were stair step, mostly no one knew that who my brother and sister were through high school, because they started having kids in eighth and ninth grade too, following
Mm.
that generational type situation. And my brother kind of got kicked out of high school, went to an alternative school, and then my sister, she had to go to alternative school when she started having kids too. So like through high school, none of them knew that those were my older siblings. And so, again, I was in track, I was in church, and so all of that stuff kind of kept me level headed. And once I finally graduated from high school, all I knew was I wanted to go to college. My brother and sister barely getting their GEDs from the choices that they made early on. And my best friend, she's like, I'm going to University of Central Florida. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to University of Central Florida too. I didn't care. I just wanted to go where she was going. So applied, got in, and she ended up switching to FSU. And I
Mm.
was like, man, this this is not great, because I don't really know anybody here. So it's too late to get into FSU. I said, all right, Lord, this is what we're doing. Um, my church, they ended up I think, well, the place where I rented, they ended up giving me like the first 2 months for free, some type of promo. And then my church ended up paying for another 2 months. And they gave me a scholarship to pay for my rent for that place. And I got some Pell Grants. I got a 75% academic scholarship. And then my dad, the Lord ended up blessing him with a business where he eventually ended up making 4 times the amount of income that he did on his regular job. And
Mm,
so I did work during school part time, but he paid for half of all of my bills. You know, I was able to take care of the rest of everything, and I was able to go to college and graduate. So, you know, I feel like the Lord has seen me through a lot growing up and going through against all odds because there's been times like I said, I'm the only one that graduated from college. The only one that barely made it out of high school walking
mm.
across the stage.
Wow.
So, God has been good. And my dad even said, he's like, baby, I had no idea how I was going to help you through college. He's like, but you've always been like strong willed and self determined. So he was like, I was like, Lord, I need to figure out how to help my baby through college. And he's like, this opportunity came along. And so, that was definitely, he even called it a blessing himself. I was like, all right, Jesus, keep on working on
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Wow. I
that
love
was cool.
that. Love that. I think first off, the thing that sticks to me is how you talk about your loving relationship with your parents, despite the fact that they weren't married to one another. I think that's so huge that you've been able to maintain that loving bond with them all of the even to the present. And I know that what you're saying is true because I've seen you post about you and your parents and your interactions on social media. So I've definitely you could definitely just see it in the pictures that's evident that what you're speaking to is a real thing. And so like as you stated, it's such a blessing to hear that. And then just thinking about your early years of that journey of between all of the switching of schools, between just kind of being in this generational cycle about how things how things normally had went, whether it was at the stage of how your mom, started off having kids early or your siblings doing the same thing. And just the challenges of adjusting to all of that. The fact that you didn't end up going through those same things already signals to me that God was trying to in the early stages show you that I'm setting you aside for something special.
Oh, yeah.
There's a work that's being prepared for you, and I know maybe at that time you didn't quite know what that was. But as I hear you reflecting back on that, and it's funny, we don't think about those things at the time that we're going through, but when we have moments like this where you can kind of reflect back and you start thinking about that, like now it makes sense why I had to endure this and why I had to go through that. At the time, it didn't feel good. At the time, it didn't make sense to me. I'm thinking,
No.
why me? Why do I have to be in this situation? But now when you think about, as we shared offline, when you think about the purpose that God is downloading inside of you and he's showing you, he's revealing to you some things, you can begin to put the pieces together and it's starting to make sense. And then
Yeah.
even to use an outlet like athletics as a pathway to lead you into a relationship with him. Who knew
Mhm.
that athletics would springboard itself into you getting involved in church actively and giving your life to Christ and being active in ministry. And then again, fast forwarding it to today, you do much of those same things now.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a meaning and a purpose to it all, even if it doesn't always make sense. And I want that to be of encouragement to those who are tuning in to understand that it's not going to always make sense in the moment. There's nothing about God. I'm gonna quote a friend of mine. She always says, God is not random. There's always a very specific, calculated purpose to everything that he does and situates us in. Even if it makes no sense to us, it doesn't matter. It makes sense to him, and
Oh, yeah.
it's a perfected plan. It's without flaws. It's set just the way it's supposed to be set, doing the things that it's supposed to do, giving you those experiences that you're supposed to have to get to where he's leveling you up to arrive at. So I appreciate you sharing that foundational basis of your journey because it's starting to begin the motions of putting the pieces together about how God is going to use you and how He is currently using you.
Oh,
So
yeah.
It's awesome stuff. Awesome stuff.
Thanks,
So,
Joe.
Angel, you know, as we go through our childhood, and of course, ultimately we branch off into adulthood, the experiences continue, the journeys continue, the storms come, some good, some not so good. We go through a up and down roller coaster, if you will, of life happenings. But every now and then, in that process of doing so, we get hit with some experiences that they're a little bit more heavy, a little bit more burdensome, if you will, than the traditional day to day, lifing type stuff. So much so that we might find ourselves facing some challenges that we question, how am I going to get through this? Even if I'm somebody that's normally good at navigating my way through challenging times or whatever, even the best of us get hit with some storms that
Oh yeah.
that take us to levels, that take us to places that we feel like there's no way out. And that applies even to believers,
Oh
where you
yeah.
might have some doubts as to, Lord, how am I going to get up out of this? So with that said, if you would tell us about a time when you found yourself in one of those type of situations where, as you were going through it, you didn't know if there was a way out of this. You didn't know how you were going to overcome it. It was that burdensome. It was that weighty upon you. Obviously, you're here today, so we can trust and believe that God has led you through it.
Yeah.
But maybe at the time it didn't feel like that, or you weren't so sure. So if you would share with us, what was that situation like for you, whatever story it is that you're going to share with us, and what was ultimately the turning point where you began to see some light at the end of the tunnel and coming up out of that situation.
Well, I feel like, my divorce was kind of like a pinnacle moment for me in life where I was just like, I was like, oh, when I get married, I only want to get married once. And, my mom, she, I'm gonna just say my parents, they both married people in the 80s. My daddy is still legally married to this woman today, but they've been estranged since I was like 7 years old. And my mom, she recently just finally got her divorce, maybe 3 to 5 years ago, and they again had been estranged since I was like in elementary school. So
Mm,
I, I never seen them married to each other, so that wasn't a big deal to me. But I was like, oh, I get married. I only want to do it once. And whenever I was gearing up to get married, I was going through a praying for your future spouse challenge, and um, end up meeting this guy, and you know falling in love quickly. And I think I was more focused on like the love more so than the purpose, because um, when I kind of go back and think about it, we were truly like unequally yoked. you know um, I've been sold out for Christ for a while, even though, times of backsliding and, having to come into repentance. But, you know, Jesus has been, there through thick and thin for years for me. And even though he said he was a Christian, there are people who don't necessarily practice the faith, even though, they, claim it to be. I'm like, so we didn't really have the foundation. And, I thought it was going to be different. It was a long distance marriage. Um, he was barely there. And it got to the point where I didn't see him. He was in a whole different state from me. We didn't share anything together. We didn't share any accounts together. Uh, when I purchased my current place, he decided he didn't want to purchase it with me. There were times where, I was like, okay, Lord, like what's going on here? And he was undocumented too, so I was helping him go through the green card process.
mm,
And so, everybody was like, hey, Angel, do you feel like, there might be something else going on here? And I was like, I'm praying that it's not. I was like, Lord, help me. I get this man the green card. And
mm, mm, mm.
I'm safe, but, there might be, a turning point.
Right.
if this man get a green card and then he divorces me or leaves or something. So um, there was a time in the marriage where I was just like, okay, the things that we talked about, the things that we discussed, it's not happening, and so um, I think after a year and a half, I filed for divorce the first time. He came to Dallas like immediately once he got the paperwork, and I told him I was going to do it. I don't know if he believes me or not. Um, and then he's pleading for me to you know do something different, change the marriage, change my mind. He's going to do better. He's going to come home more, or come to Dallas more. He's going to do the things that he says that he's going to do. And then I introduced him to my best friend that December after I take it off the table. He does something that makes me feel like has been unfaithful. He gives his number to the bartender, and the bartender rats him out. And I was like, "This is the first time you meet my best friend.
Mm.
What is going on here?" You know, my best friend and husband actually. Um, and I was like, "We need to go to counseling because I just pulled back the freaking divorce, and now you're doing this. Like, this makes no sense to me." Um, and so fast forward about maybe half a 2 years or a year and a half. No, it had to be maybe at the 2 year mark. I prayed and I was like, Lord, um, if this man ever comes and says to me, I don't want to have any kids, I know that it's my sign to move.
Mm.
And it was like June of 2022 or something. And because I had been praying, I was like, Lord, I want to be in covenant relationship. I think the only reason I held on to the marriage so tightly because, I was feeling like I made this promise with you and God. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't want to just give up because if anybody knows Angel, you got about a year to figure out your life. Maybe. And I'm done. So for him to get 3 years, God was good. But so so our first date, this man telling me he wants 2 and 3 kids and what the type of life that he wants and all this stuff. So I said, this man ever tells me he does not want to have kids, I know that that is my sign from you that this is time to exit stage left. So he was doing okay as far as like what we agreed for him to come home to Dallas. And then, October of 2022, he started being funny about how often he was coming home. And so I started getting upset again. Like, you're doing good for about a year. Like, why are we going through this again? And I don't think he came home he said he was going to come home for Thanksgiving. He didn't. So I drove myself to Chicago the day before Thanksgiving or on Thanksgiving. I don't know what I did. Me and the dog was in Chicago on Thanksgiving. He was going to have Thanksgiving. But anyway, so
Mm, 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 mm.
then I can't remember if he came for Christmas or not, but he was Serbian. So their Christmas was January 8th or 9th. It kind of changes because it's Eastern Orthodox Christian. So he had said something about, oh, I wanted to do something together. We don't go to any sports stuff. So I bought him tickets to that Mavs game for his Christmas gift. And he's supposed to come that Saturday. He calls me 2 days before. Oh, I got a business meeting and I can't make it until that Sunday. And I was like, dude, like, your Christmas gift is tickets to the Mavs game on your Christmas. Like, I was so upset with him. He came the next day, which was a Sunday, and he was being weird. We met at a local restaurant, had lunch, went back to my place, and he's like, yeah, we need to talk. And so we sat down to talk, and I didn't realize what we need to talk about other than, like, him not staying on top of his word. But then my spirit flipped, and I remembered in that instance what I said 6 months before. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's about to say it. And so he said, yeah, I've been going to a counselor since December, and I don't want to have any kids. And I said, oh, mm, okay. I said, so how long have you felt like this? He's like, oh, about a year. Oh, it's been a year. I said, well, 6 months ago, we talked about, you know, I'm 39, I'm getting older. You met me when I was older, I have no kids. You know, we said we are going to try to start the process come this year, and all of a sudden you don't want to have kids. So that was like a dagger to my heart, but the Lord had kind of already prepared me because
Hmm.
it was a feeling that was already in my spirit that this wasn't going to make it. So, so I had actually been processing it for 6 months because I was like, that didn't come out of nowhere where I just felt like this man no longer wanted to create a family with me, or that he was doing something else, maybe had something else going on. I had a friend actually who worked, my friend married us and ended up kind of doing some trucking business with him and was like, Angel, I don't know, something's going on, in Chicago. And he seemed like he might have had another family. So, he told me after the fact, but I was like, you know, I had to process that. I had to process that and say, you know what, Lord, thank you for already putting it in my spirit that something else devious or something else that was not of your will was going on. And I know that it was more a lesson for me about being patient and waiting on God for whom and what he has for me, because that was not ultimately, who I needed, but it was a lesson for me to learn about trusting and waiting on God and preparing me for my next. So I'm still waiting and trusting God, but it was definitely a storm I had to kind of go through. I had to process. I had to kind of trust that, while we say, oh, Christians, oh, you shouldn't divorce this, that, and the other, it's only this or that. Sometimes your testimony and the things that you go through are a means to help and assist other people go through things, because, the two biggest things the Lord said that we have to do, Jesus said it. And all those commandments, he broke it down to two. Love thy God with all thy heart, mind, body, and soul, and love thy neighbor as thyself. And so when you start loving people through their stuff, regardless of, oh, this is what this said or this is what that said, sometimes you're able to love them like Jesus loved us, because we get it wrong so many times. And because your storm looks different from other people,
Hmm.
sometimes we can get a judginess about ourselves, because if you haven't been there and done that, it's hard for you to actually have any statement about what somebody else has struggled with or what somebody else has gone through.
So true. So true. Um, I guess first off, I want to thank you for your appreciate your transparency and sharing that. The conversation of divorce is never an easy one to have, to rehash, to relive. And I've mentioned this before on other episodes where divorce has come up, and I tell people all the time that I've experienced divorce myself in the past. And, it's not like, I quit you. It's not like, I break up with you. It's the, what it does to you mentally and emotionally. It's pretty intense, and it's something that you wouldn't wish on anybody to go through. So, to be able to speak about that and be open in doing so. I definitely appreciate that because I know we're going to have listeners who are either currently going through that right now, or who have been there in that moment. And then something that I wanted to mention that you and because we were talking about marriage a little bit offline, and you spoke about how you felt like a big part of the marriage not working was that you were in love with being in love,
Oh yeah.
and I think that that's a very real thing that happens in a lot of marriages that ultimately don't work out. Is we get caught up in the concept of it, what it looks like. We see people, whether they be people at work, people in our church, people in the family, whatever, and they're married, and it just seems like it's this beautiful picture, and don't let it be a situation where you're getting a little bit older and you start to think, well, my time is ticking, and if I don't hurry up and get somebody, and start a family, whatever, it's gonna be too late for me, but
Oh yeah.
at the ultimately, and something that you said offline, which is so true, and you actually mentioned it online as well, is that if love is what you're pursuing, then the first thing that you need to embrace is, where does love originate, and that's with
God is
God
love.
Himself. God is love, and so
Amen.
when you talked about, as you were describing your marriage, one of the other pieces that you spoke about was that you were unequally yoked, that God
Yep.
wasn't in it, and
Mm-mm.
so it's like, and I've said this to married couples, and it's something that I have to practice in my own marriage. It's like, you can't really expect your marriage to last, or to have that longevity. You can't expect it to be without, to not be a tumultuous situation, if you're trying to take an imperfect husband and an imperfect wife and throw them together with all of their mess, with all of their past, with all of their traumas and issues and such, and leave God out of it and expect this thing to just magically work
Manifest.
itself out. It just doesn't happen like that. And that's not to say that if God is in it, you won't have challenges. You're
Okay.
gonna you're gonna still have those challenges, but you're not trying to fight these battles by yourself, because God
Amen.
has a way of connecting you in such a way and being a presence in such a way to where, even in the midst of those storms, you have an opportunity to get through those challenging moments, so that the conversation of divorce is not even a part of
The
your mindset. It's
discussion.
like, it's not even up for discussion, because you know who's a part of it. God is a part of this relationship. He's a part of this
Yeah.
marital bond.
Yeah.
He created
That
marriage.
three, four.
He is love. So it's going to work itself out, as long as you lean on Him for that guidance, for that understanding, for that direction, especially when you're not seeing eye to eye. So for anybody who's tuning in to this episode, and you're in the middle of a marriage that's struggling, or perhaps you're thinking about getting married, please keep that in mind. Is, where's God in the mix of this? Because to talk about being equally yoked, to talk about having God in the mix of your marriage, to be that third connector to that marriage, that's not just random conversation. That's
No.
that's a real type of deal. And when you leave Him out, these type of things, unfortunately, don't always end well. And
Yeah.
so in your particular situation, I'm glad that you were able to, I feel the fact that I love the fact that you were trying to be devoted and committed to making it last, in spite of all the craziness and all the red flags that were around. But at one point, you did boldly go to God and just say, Lord, if you just show me this will be my cue to let me know. And he heard your prayer. He said,
Yeah.
okay, if I've been giving Angel some signs that something's not right here, but if she really needs for me to have this brother tell her that he don't want kids, after he said he wanted kids 6 months ago, and it don't come out right, like he hasn't come down with anything, there's something weird that's happened that's preventing him from partaking in that process, then I'll give her that, because again, I have work for her to do. I have her set aside for some great things in life, and I
Amen.
can't have her get distracted. But I needed to have you go through this situation, so you understand who you need to be relying upon, who you need to
Oh
be
yeah,
leaning
and
on.
like I told you offline, Joe, I was like, even, like after my divorce, I still, got on the dating websites. I'm still looking for love. Desiring to have. I know He's put the desire in my heart, but I, I had to have a mind shift and the Lord changes your mind. He
Hmm.
changes your perspective. Oh, that's the beauty in like growing deeper in God. is to change perspective. And that's what people don't really understand whenever you're talking about transforming, and renewing whose you are in him. And so he changed my mind to say, hey, Angel, these other suitors aren't working out because you're putting more time, energy, and effort into cultivating a relationship with them, but you're not spending that same energy, time, and effort in cultivating a relationship with me.
Mm.
So I need you to stop.
Stop. Yeah. And when we don't stop, he'll stop it for you. You know, if he's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna be patient with you and let you try to stop, 'cause I done told you. But
Hmm.
if I need to bring it to a screeching halt to get your attention, then that's what I need to do. Because at the end of the day, he wants you to know what your worth is.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's the beauty, like you said, of being in a relationship with God, is that when you get that new way of looking at things, that new way of hearing things, it's another level to it. And
Oh yeah.
the stuff that you used to accept, I don't receive that anymore. The stuff that used to be okay for you to settle for, you know, I'm not settling for that anymore. And if that
I mean,
means I
I
have to
thought
be
I
by
was
myself,
that they used to think heads used to roll before, honey. Look.
but that's all in spiritual growth. I mean, you wanna get to the point where, yeah, it's not a cockiness, it's not an arrogance. It's like I just know who I belong to,
Amen.
I know who my daddy is, and I know what he thinks of me.
Yeah, because
And
that's
yeah.
that focus. I already feel like he's like birthing something in me at this stage in my life, and my focus is kind of shifted already to, oh, I ain't even thinking of, in the back of my
Mm-hmm.
mind, I still be like, all right, if he out here in these streets, Lord thy God, okay. But my focus is really shifted to like the purpose
Mm-hmm.
that he has on my life, in this season, and this purpose, and then we'll talk about it more. But I know there is about to be some doors open, and he's impregnating me right now with my spiritual baby
Mm-hmm.
that it's going he's gonna be coming soon.
There we go. There we go. Love that. Love that. So, Angel, when you do find yourself, I mean, I know we talked about challenging situation with something like divorce, which is a heavy situation, but again, sometimes we deal with the heavy storms. Sometimes our storms are very light and just day to day type stuff that we deal with. But what I'm curious to know from you is, when you do find yourself facing adversity, what is it that you like to do in terms of if you have a particular routine or regimen, if you will, that you like to follow that kind of helps you to process, okay, I'm facing this challenge. How can I stay level minded, level headed in the moment, but work my way through that situation? What is the thing or series of things that works best for you as you're dealing with challenging times?
Well, the Lord has really done a very good job would allow me to find healthy coping mechanisms, when situations happen in my life, because I get to the point to say, you know what's the worst that could happen?
Hmm.
Am I still living? Do I still have a roof over my head? Do I still have a job? Am I, do I have breath of life? Am I able to use my limbs? And so anytime I come for a time of adversity, I don't necessarily get mad at the adversity anymore because my perspective has changed. I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, Lord, what you want me to learn?
Hmm.
What are you trying to teach me right now? And Lord, help me to get it right so I ain't got to go through this again. So, like, I've kind of started to kind of humble myself in situations to look for like teachable moments in the adversity and figure out kind of, because the Lord, He uses all things, situations that happen in our life for our good. And once you really understand it and get that, you don't necessarily see the hard times as necessarily hard times, but times for growth. And so when there's a change in the perspective of how you perceive what's going on in your life, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, you are able to cope with it better and know that there is something from this that God is going to use to project you to your next. And so I generally just get in a quiet place, but the Lord, He's been teaching me this since I was young of kind of how to be adaptable to life and situations. And that's why I feel like all the different school changes and stuff going through growing up kind of allowed me to kind of just be able to move. Now, does adversity hurt sometimes? And do you still carry some of those things with you? Like, yeah, dang it. Because
Mhm.
I wanted to be a special agent for years. And I got to a point where, I passed the interview, I passed this, I passed this, I passed everything. And then I got to the point where they did an internal investigation, passed my background check, but I had two things on my background that I'm almost positive the manager that was hiring me, he said that he was going to block my ability to get the job.
Mm.
So I'm sure that was the reason why I didn't get the job, because those things that were on the internal weren't what he said, to the degree where I should not have been able to get the job. But I'm like, okay, Lord, what I'm understanding now is, like, I've applied for so many different jobs. I've been in Dallas since 2007. I graduated from college December 2006. The Lord, this was a leap of faith when I moved to
Mhm.
Dallas from Orlando, Florida, from college. Uh, and the Lord had me here in Dallas. And I never thought that I was going to stay in Dallas. Never. I was like, oh, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be, other places. There has to be 5 or 6 times where I thought I was leaving Dallas. Okay. I had job offers after job offers after job offers in different cities. I've accepted job offers in different cities. I had a job offer in San Diego for Border Patrol, and then somebody offered me a job um, for a Pills position in Phoenix, Arizona. That was a GS-12 in 2018, but I said, no, I'm about to go to be Border Patrol. And then I had another job offer in Baltimore, Maryland. And then somebody came back around, and it's like, well, we'll give you the same job here to stay in disclosure, and you ain't got to move. There's been and then, I married a man who was in Chicago, but things didn't work out for me to go. So what I've realized in life, the Lord has had me planted here in
Mhm.
Dallas, Fort Worth. This is where He has me planted, because He has a work for me to do in Dallas, Fort Worth. And so the no's for all those
Mhm.
other opportunities that I thought, oh man, you know, I didn't get that job, or I knew this, that was all Him working for an angel to sit herself down.
Just
because
sit still. I
because
know you really wanted that.
He's made me very willful. He's made
Mhm.
me like, He's made me a go getter. Like, that is something that He has in. Look, but at the same time, I'm His kid, so He has to balance me out, because
Mhm.
you know you tell Angel to do something, hey, she gonna get that job done, and you don't have to tell her a second time. But yeah, He's definitely He's told me to sit down. So there'll be a time for me to possibly travel to different places, which, thank God I'm an instructor right now. Right now I'm in Tennessee, so I get to travel. So that gives my little travel bug with seeing different cities across the nation. Um, but He definitely has me with purpose in Dallas Fort Worth for a reason. And
Mhm.
I have come to terms
Yeah. And
that
there's
this is
nothing
what
wrong
He
with that.
has me.
There's nothing wrong with that. And like you said, it gets confirmed because every time I try to go, something pulls me back. every time I try to go, there's something that shifts that has me right back where I'm at. And when those type of things happen, it's very easy in our flesh to look at it. Oh man, I missed out on this great opportunity or whatever. But one of the things that I thank God every day for, even more than the open doors, is the closed doors.
Oh yeah. Thank you,
Because
God.
it's like
Look.
because when I think back to some closed doors that I was in my feelings about initially, that the door was closed, whether it was work
Yeah.
related, whether it was relationship related, whether it was
Mm-hmm.
whatever related, and you think back
Mm-hmm.
now, be like, ooh, I'm glad you closed that door. I had no idea what I thought I was walking
Sir.
into. It looked good on the outside. It seemed like it was a great opportunity. And again, it may have been a great opportunity. It may have been a great connection between you and this other individual, but God had something better. And
Glory.
so he's like, I don't want you to settle. He said, this is okay, but it's not for you. I got something better for you. So this is cool. Ain't nothing wrong with it. It's not that you wouldn't be good at it, but I got something better for you. And so when you start realizing that the storms that are coming your way, or those closed doors that are coming your way, is more about not denial per se, but more about growth opportunities,
Oh yeah.
blessing opportunities. Then again, we're going back to the conversation about the perception, the way you see things, the way I perceive now is
Mm-hmm.
different
Oh yeah.
because of who I'm connected to allows me to see it differently. I don't look at my storm as a negative. It again,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel good. I would much rather not go through it, but I understand that if he's allowing me to go through it, then he's setting me up for something good on the other end of
Amen.
it. So all I got to do is ride that thing out,
Yeah.
and trust
Be
that he's
with
going to
me.
make sure I'm
Be with
okay. I'm okay. I'm going to be
Yeah.
covered. I'm going to be protected. Don't worry about it. You're not going to be harmed. I'm going to get you through this. It's going to be rough, but I'm going to get you through this. And when you see what you see when we get to the other side, you should be thanking me now, but you're definitely going to be thanking me then.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of the mindset that you get in, but it's the perception that changes. And that's all directly connected to that relationship, which is why
Mhm.
that's so
Yeah.
important. So
Yeah.
good stuff. Good stuff. So Angel, knowing all your different experiences and, be it good, bad, or otherwise, challenges that you overcome, things of that nature. If you had an opportunity to sit across the table and speak to the younger Angel, when you think back to the way she used to think about things, how she used to perceive, adversity moments and challenges in life or what have you, if you could pour into her and give her some words of advice, some words of wisdom, if you would, that you wish she would have known, that you think if had she had these little nuggets of information, it might have helped her pivot through some of those challenging times a little bit better, or even perhaps just understanding that we probably have some people right now that are going to tune in into this episode and they're in that struggle moment. They don't know how to deal with adversity in a healthy and an appropriate way. What would be your words of encouragement, your words of wisdom to impart in either the younger Angel and or those who might be listening and going through right now and they don't know how to properly process that?
Trust God in the process. You know, we always say, oh, lean not into your own understanding, and that is definitely very, very true. Because you know, you have to just have faith in the process. Because if the Lord showed us everything that we had to go through to get what He has for us, we probably would not go on the journey. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people see what you look like coming out of the journey. Like, a lot of people look in my life and say, Angel, you're so blessed. You have your own place that you own, you have your own car, you make a good salary, you don't have any kids, you're 40, you look nice and you shape and stuff, and you know they see the freedom of my life, and but they don't necessarily know my story or the things that I had to go through to get to where I am. And I still haven't arrived, y'all. With all of that, I still haven't arrived because there's definitely some additional desires that I have in my life that I have not been able to fulfill. But yet, I would say to younger Angel, keep trusting God in the process. Not that it's necessarily going to get easier, but as you go through each thing that you have to go through, is going to teach you how to be a better version of yourself. You're going to be, you always wondered, why do I have to do this myself? Why do I have to continue to struggle? You know, when I was in high school, by my sophomore year, I left my mother's house because she grew up, um, I guess, very, in a dysfunctional household. I'll say it that way. My father, he's more philosophical. He will talk to you and reason and understanding. So I left my mother's household because my spirit wasn't in that, and I moved in with my father. And, understanding that, moving with him where I had that stability of life that I've always desired to have, and able to learn what true stability looked like, that was a catapult to kind of help me to determine the type of life that I wanted to do after I got grown. And so, um, understanding, what you went through and what you don't desire to have, versus understanding, a better life, what stability looks like, and what you have to do to get there. My father is someone that he has no one that he can safely land on if he was to fail.
Mm.
He doesn't. He's the rock for our family. And I'm learning that I'm the rock for my family. And sometimes when you become the rock, there are different struggles that you have to go through and build up to be that leader. And you're not going to necessarily get the same help that other people get. There were so many times I felt like a jealousy towards my sister growing up. I'm like, well, I'm going to school. I'm doing what's right. I'm making good grades. I'm working. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. But she's getting the assistance. She's getting the help. She's getting the car that she doesn't have to pay for, the insurance she didn't have to pay for. She gets the free house. Um, she gets all this stuff, because she chose a different path than I did. And I'm like, well, I'm working so hard
Hmm.
and doing so much, and I have to do it all by myself. And, I had to kind of get out of that. The Lord has set me apart.
Hmm.
So, little angel, the Lord has set you apart. You are his chosen. And so, your journey is going to look a lot different
Yeah.
from everybody else's. And so, trust him in the process, because he is building you to be greater. You are a royal priesthood, a chosen generation. And so you are the change. You're the one that breaks the generational curses. You're the one that brings that generational wealth. So keep striving to your next.
Love that. Love that. And I think the key words that you mentioned there is about set apart. When God calls you, you're going to be set apart. Set apart means that there's going to be some by yourself time. There's
Mm.
going to be it's not going to be the same for you, and it's natural, as you stated, to feel some kind of way when you're looking at other people like, well, look at all of the support that they have and look at the access of things that they have, and here I am, I'm having to carry all of this and be that, like you said, when you're having to be that rock, when you're having to be that encourager. I've mentioned this many times. Who does, and I made me think about that when you spoke about your dad. Like, who does the encourager go to when he or she needs to be encouraged? Like, what about me? I can't always have the answer. I can't always be the one that comes alongside. I need somebody to come alongside me and be there for me sometime. Well, again, we're not in this thing by ourselves. That relationship with God
Amen.
allows you to have, if you don't have nobody else, you got God.
Amen.
And
I
in
had a
the end,
strong friend people need to check up on. They be like, Angel, she's so strong. Look, y'all. Look.
I'm strong, but I'm not superhuman. I mean, I go through stuff too, you know.
I got challenges of my own as well. I need support. I need encouragement. I need to be uplifted from time to time as well. So, yeah, I mean, all of those things you spoke of, but don't look at being set apart as a negative thing.
No.
Because the reward, for you being set apart, the reward is far beyond the stuff that you think you missing out on that other people are
Mhm.
benefiting from. When you allow
Mhm.
yourself to be set apart,
There's a
when you allow
freedom.
you,
So much freedom. Oh
it's a new
God.
level of freedom that
Whew.
other people are just never going to experience. Because everybody can't be kings and queens. Everybody can't run the show. Everybody can't. There are a select few that can do that. There's a price that comes with it, but knowing that the price that you're paying is coming
It's worth
from,
it. Yeah.
if it's with the right source.
Oh
That's the
yeah.
key. If you're
Oh
connected to
yeah.
the right source that you're paying the price for,
It's not gonna be. It's not.
it's not going to feel like you
It's
getting
not.
gypped or shortchanged or anything
Yeah.
like that. You only run into danger when you try to pay the worldly price for
Come on.
worldly benefits, for worldly
Come on. Because
statuses, for things of that
you
nature.
gonna get that, and what else? You
Yeah,
get that
I
instant
mean,
gratification, and then
yeah. What happens then?
yeah,
You
it's done.
know, you're looking not just for the now. You're putting in the work for the hereafter. When so that's kind of how you have to look at it.
Oh yeah.
You're setting yourself up in a way
Yeah.
that is nothing in comparison to what we might consider to be something of significance here on earth.
Yeah.
And again, that doesn't mean that God is going to let you be without, that you're just going to be struggling and have nothing to work with. He's just, again,
I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna paraphrase because I know my Bible, but I can't tell how many passages or whatever. But it says a parent is going to give great to their kid. So how much more will our Father God give to His children? And so I don't have a poor man's mindset. And where my Father God is, if He said that I am a royal priesthood and talking about how He is going to bless my life, and He's talking about blessing me here and now. He ain't talking about just bless me when I'm over yonder. So, and I know we're about to kind of go into that, but I'm gonna let you finish that little part, baby.
but no, I mean what you're saying. I mean, like I said, you're God is gonna make sure that His is taken care of.
Nah.
That's just really the simplistic way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna make sure you're taken care of. So, you do as God is leading you to do. Don't be caught up in worrying and looking at what everybody else has and what's going on with them or whatever. You're on a whole different level.
Oh yeah.
You're in a different lane. You're in a different space. Everybody, we talked about that earlier. Everybody can't go where you're going. Everybody can't do what you're doing, but the reward in it. That's not to say that that's the only reason that you do it, because you're trying to get
No,
something out
because
of
the
it.
reward
Just
is not even. I mean, people don't understand like having genuine people that just love and support you is
hmm
reward itself.
yeah. So the reward is not going to always be, if I do this good work, God's going to let me hit the lottery. Or if I
Mm-mm.
do this good work, He's going to give me this multi-million-dollar salary on the job. I mean, not to say that those things can't happen, but that's not
Nah.
the energy. That's not your
That's not the motivation.
motivation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Come
that's
on.
not supposed to be your motivation. You're
Yeah.
walking in the purpose that God has set aside specifically for you to
And
walk
his
in, using the
gifts.
gifts. Yeah,
Yes. Come on, sir.
yeah. So that's what we're talking about, and
Yes.
whatever
Yes.
that is that you're supposed to be utilizing, that God has placed in you, then you
Because he says
utilize that.
his gifts is going to provide for you, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he gave you those gifts.
He gave you those gifts. So
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, absolutely. So Angel, this has been a wonderful conversation of having with you. I've enjoyed getting another layer, if you will, of who you are and in your journey and your purpose and all. And it's been a pleasure just hearing about it all. I know I've been blessed. I know my listeners are going to be blessed. But before I let you go, as is customary on the Blessings in the Streets podcast, we want to take an opportunity to show some love to you, to celebrate you, to acknowledge you, to lift you up. So if you have anything that's going on right now or coming up down the pipe, personally and or professionally, that you would like to share, please do so at this time. Because again, we want to celebrate you. We want to love on you and acknowledge these great works and these great blessings that are in store for your life?
Well, as I was kind of telling you pre-show, Joe, the Lord is birthing a spiritual baby in me right now that I didn't even think. Um, I didn't think. There was a time where I was like, well, Lord, you made me a jack of all trades and a master of none. Because I can do a lot of things well. Like, I know how to build things. I know to change toilets. I know to change water heaters. I know how to braid hair. I know how to cook well. I know how to sew. Like, I'm good at math. I am a director and I get things done. I'm very, organized and detailed oriented. So he's made me, just like I said, a jack of all trades. Um, I've never taken any professional dance lessons, but I'm over the dance ministry. Never been a teacher per se, but I'm over my nursery ministry. Uh, so he's kind of bundled all of that stuff up and has kind of birthed a vision within me. And I'm gonna just say it's about reimagining how we do church. And so I he asked me on in a conversation with him on 4th of July, like I was telling you, to write down the vision. So I've written down the vision and I'm writing a business plan. And in the next couple of years, there's going to be some things in store for the Dallas Fort Worth area like you've never seen before. And I truly feel like the Lord has downloaded this into my spirit as a community need. And reimagining how we do church. So I'm going to just kind of give y'all that little tidbit, but I'm excited about it. I am, the Lord is actually kind of connecting me already with several people in ministry that in the last year.
Hmm.
It's connected me with so many people that is going to help me like push this vision into fruition for what he has for the kingdom. And so that's true legacy. That's true generational wealth. And that will be how I'm able to be there for my family and be that set them up for a better life as well as enhance the life of others.
Love that. Love that. Well, we're going to already celebrate this upcoming vision coming into existence. We're just claiming that victory right now. Thankful that God has placed that on your heart to do, and I'm excited to
Yes.
see it birth itself. And you definitely, as we get closer to that time where it's becoming more of a viable thing, and people can get connected with you and be supportive of that or what have you, I would have no problem having you back on to go more into detail about where you're at with that. So so others can be blessed by it. So again, I'm happy for you. I'm thanking God for what He's doing in your life, and I'm just appreciative that you're taking time out to just spend a little bit of it with us and sharing your story and being so transparent and open in doing so. Because again, it blesses it, when you tell your story, when you share your story, and do so in an authentic and transparent way. It has no other choice but to be a blessing to those who are tuning in, and so I'm very appreciative of that. And so,
I
um,
appreciate you, Joe, for the invitation. Not a lot of people know my testimony or different things that I've been through. Um, I'm semi-private, like everybody, share my little good moments on social media. Putting all my stuff out there in the streets, but I am an open book. So it was definitely a pleasure to be able to have this dialogue with you and kind of share, the different experiences I've been through and how God has seen me through.
absolutely, and again, I'm glad that God put it on my spirit to even reach out to you, because I mean, I a lot of what you shared this evening I didn't know about you, and I've known you for a while, and
Yeah.
so for me to be able to again to be poured into by you, and sharing your experiences and such. I mean, again, it's a blessing, and I'm thankful for that. So appreciate you so much for being a part of this. And to my listening audience, if you've enjoyed the podcast, our content, what we're talking about here, you like the vibe of it all, please subscribe, please share, please like, please comment, because here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is what it's all about. We want to encourage, we want to uplift, we want to inspire. We understand that everybody goes through storms and moments of adversity and may not always know how to properly process and deal with that. So we hope that in the sharing of our stories, you'll be encouraged, and knowing that it's not just you that's going through, but that more important than that, that there is a way to get through those difficult times, and it begins with the relationship with God. And I'm here to tell you, and I'm sure Angel will co-sign on that. If you don't currently have a relationship with God, today is a mighty fine day for you to make that decision. And I guarantee you, it'll be the best decision that you ever make in life. He's the ultimate problem solver. He can love you like no other. He's the greatest comforter. He'll be there with you through the thick and thin of all the times and then some. And you
Yes.
have a purpose for your life, and he can reveal that to you, but you got to be in relationship with him so he can guide you and show you the way. And the possibilities are endless as to what you will experience and enjoy. Not only blessings for you and your family, but how, more importantly, how you can be a blessing to other people.
Amen. Yeah.
So with that said, remember, here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is a place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph E. Roberts. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, you keep fighting that good fight. You keep persevering, not allowing that adversity to get the best of you, embracing those storms, understanding that those are opportunities, not negative moments, but opportunities for growth and development, for you to be a better version of yourself, to be leveled up in yourself so that God can use you in a magnificent and mighty way, tapping into those gifts that he's placed in you from day one, that's residing inside of you, just waiting to be used for the advancement of his kingdom and for the blessing of his people. So with that said, you take care of yourselves. I look forward to seeing you again on our next broadcast. Have a great rest of your evening.